What is up, guys? Welcome to another YouTube video. This one will be covering the HRE 2TC build. In the video, we'll be covering two different approaches. One is making military in H2, and the other one will be pretty much going for a fast castle off the back of 2TC. Also discuss when you should consider going straight to fast castle, when you should consider making H2 units, and when you should consider making towers. We'll also be discussing the different landmark options and what I believe to be the best options in this build. If you are interested in getting a written version of the build order, I have the opening for this written out step by step. You can get access to that in my Discord channel, which I will leave a link to in the description of this video. So let's get right into it, guys. Alright, so first things first, queue a scout as soon as you can. Go collect the 2 sheep near your town center and bring them back. And as soon as you can, send 2 across to gold. The rest are going to go on food here, and make sure with your sheep here that you bring the 2 sheep back onto the side of the TC which is closest to the gold. In this case, it's the same side as where the original sheep spawned. But this is basically going to reduce the walking distance for your prelate between the gold and the food. Because in the early stages, your prelate isn't going to spend all of its time just empowering the food. There's going to be a lull here, as you can see. So it's good to have it near your gold so he doesn't have to move as far. So we can inspire more gold and food villas at once. So new villas across to food as well. We're building our first house with a food villager. And this house is actually... it's intentionally placed this far away from where he was gathering. And the reason is, like, as soon as I get my first few commands out of the way in the start of the game, I like to think about where I'm going to put my Archon Chapel. So if I'm playing HRE2TC, I love going Archon Chapel. I like going it quite often, unless I'm going for something more like aggressive play with like maybe Burgrave or something like that. But the reason I like going Archon on a 2TC build is, generally speaking, you're going to be transitioning to farm sooner because you're going to be exhausting natural food sources quicker. And you're also going to have a lot more vills, basically. So the density of how many vills are gathering in one spot, in this case, like your first gold mine and your wood line, it's going to be a lot higher than if you're on a single TC. So I think, personally, and there's no wrong or right here, but personally, I like going Archon pretty much every time with 2TC. So we're going 6 on food here, and then we're starting to send guys across to wood. 2 scouts are out and about collecting all the sheep that they can. And our food and gold should hit the limit at around the same time here. I don't know what happened there, like one of my vills randomly cancelled. I don't know if that's a new bug. I know it's been happening with like religious units in the past, but nonetheless, continuing to come back and forward with this prelate. We will have enough to age very shortly here. Gonna have to queue another vill, so it should match up pretty much the same time here. Dropping off the gold as soon as I have 200, and the way I can check that is by looking at the gold mine. As soon as it's 3800 here, then you have the 200 gold to age. So 3 on the landmark. As soon as you start aging, you want to keep 3 on food, and the rest go across to either wood or stone. So the goal is to have 5 on wood here, and then the rest are going across the stone. And then your prelate comes back in between the food and the wood villages so that he can efficiently just stand still and inspire basically all of your villages. Stone villages are not going to be, like, it's not efficient for your prelate to be running back and forward between the stone. Mainly because I've seen a lot of numbers thrown around about how many vills a prelate can inspire, but it's either 8 to 10. So as you can see, we already have 8 vills gathering over here. So there's no value in him running forward and back between the stone. I have tested going for a second prelate, but you do need to gather an extra 100 gold, and it's going to delay your TC timing slightly. So I like to go for my second prelate basically as soon as I drop my second TC. So at this stage, we're still just rallying our vills across to stone here. Tapping away at the Archon Chapel. And one thing, if you've got a lull in the action here, well, basically you shouldn't have a lull, because like what you should be focusing on right now is scouting your opponent and knowing what he's up to. this is going to alarm you as to what your next play should be after you drop your second TC. If they're going like super aggressive and you feel like it might not be something that you can easily hold, I recommend going for towers first before or at least one tower on exposed resources before going military. It's going to depend on where you can put your TC and how protected that keeps you. So we've aged up. Prelates should jump into the Archon soon. Those 3 vills building the landmark go straight across to gold. And you'll see why I put them on gold straight away afterwards. But right now, at around the 455 mark, you should have the res for a TC. Boom, have it. So 455 is basically, like, I can consistently get around 455, typically between 450 and 5 minutes though. And we're going to build the TC on our golden wood line here. So the reason we've sent guys onto gold here is because we want to get a prelate out as soon as we build the second TC. Now, in this particular example, I didn't go for an instant second prelate just because our Archon is covering everywhere that we've got here. But like, if you weren't putting it on somewhere where your Archon is covering it all, I would instantly create a second prelate. Nonetheless, we're still going to go for an early wheelbarrow as soon as we can. So we're going to drop a mill pretty shortly and go for a wheelbarrow here. So I have around 7 on wood this whole time and I'm rallying to food here. This is going to allow me to drop a tower, or I could have dropped a tower already if I needed to, or drop a production building like I do right now. These guys are automatically going to stone for some reason. If you do go for early towers because you're versing like French or English, I recommend keeping one guy on stone or overgathering stone, depending. Like if he's French, then you might need to overgather a little bit of stone here just so you can afford like arrow slits or whatever, because it might be a while before you can get back onto it. Get back onto the stone, because French knights are going to be coming and you have nothing to defend it. So if you're going for military here, just make whatever counters your opponent. If he's going spears for whatever reason, go archers. But if he's going like archer spear, you might want to go horseman archer, or you can go pure archer yourself. Up to you. And yeah, basically make the counter unit, fight a little bit in feudal, just feel the game out as you're playing it. Just keep in mind, like if he's single TC and he's making units, I would stay in feudal for sure, because you are going to be up against one TC most likely, or a second TC from them. If they do go second TC themselves, I recommend going for a fast castle in most situations, just because getting relics is really nice for HRE, especially if you go regnants. I will cover that build in a second here, but basically if you are in a situation where you need more towers than what because you're under a pressure here, I'd recommend not going so heavy on the food. I would probably have like take 5 off food here and put them on wood, because not only are you going to need to like put towers up or whatever, you're also most likely going to need to put a few farms down earlier than what you would otherwise. And I don't mind farming as HRE like early, because you do have the Archon. You're going to be boosting that for free basically. So I don't feel too bad about farming, especially if you've gotten wheelbarrow like I have in this situation. I've just kept 3 on gold because I'm focusing on getting units out, and if I was fighting in age 2, it's likely that I would consider dropping a blacksmith pretty soon here. As you can see, I transition a lot to wood, because I realized in my explanation that in a lot of situations you probably will need more wood than what I demonstrated here. Nonetheless, just keep building units from here, and yeah, you're gonna have to play it by ear from what you're scouting. Make sure you are utilizing both your scouts here so you can respond appropriately, but I recommend castle if they're going to TC themselves, unless it's like French. Otherwise, put more on wood, put some towers up if you need to. If they're making a couple units in feudal, I recommend just matching that, making feudal units of your own. Probably don't need to worry about towers too much. Alright, let's get into the next one. Alright guys, so this is exactly the same opening. The only difference is we're going to be looking at going castle instead. And keep in mind, this isn't the quickest timing, and I will talk through this a little bit later, but nonetheless, it's going to be basically the exact same opening here. So like I was discussing before, castle is going to be a good option if your opponent is fast castling, or if you see that they're going 2TC themselves. Now, if they're 2TC French, I don't know, I'd be a little bit sketchy about going 2TC straight into castle if they are planning on going like a feudal all-in. But it's going to depend on their timings. Sometimes you might be able to get away with it depending on what league you're in. Nonetheless, this is the exact same opening. I'm not going to talk through it in depth because we already covered that. 3 vils on the landmark, 3 vils on food, 5 wood, rest stone. And what I like to do in this fast castle variation is I like to keep the 5 on wood. Now, this can be subject to change. If you scout that your opponent is going 2TC, or if he is maybe not making that many units, or he's going fast castle himself, you can look at pulling like 2 vils off wood here, putting them on food or gold, whatever you need at the time, and go from there. As you can see, this one, the timing on this was around 455 as well, which is exactly what we got last time. And we're going to go for wheelbarrow again. Now, if you want to rush up the castle quicker, I would recommend skipping wheelbarrow for the start. For example, if your opponent is Rus or something like that, they're doing a fast castle and you feel like you need to get up to castle quicker so that you can secure some relics, then I recommend not going for wheelbarrow. But I'm a greedy boy. I don't mind aging up a little bit later in most cases, but it's going to totally depend on the game you're playing. But from here, generally the split I like to go is around 50-50. And as you can see, like I ended up going a little bit over that. So we're bringing it back and tasking to gold as well. I think I moved this TC to gold because I realized that my food is going to hit the age up time a little bit before. So just keep an eye on your macro and you go, okay, I think my gold is going to get there too soon. I'll start rallying more to food here. As you can see, these match up pretty much exactly alike. I'm going up with 12 vils. If you feel like if you know your opponent's aging slightly before you, I'd rush this up with 12 to 15 vils. Just so that you can collect the relics before your opponent can contest them. And typically on the 2TC build, I like going Regnets almost every time. So the situation where I'd recommend not going for Regnets is if you're under a lot of pressure and you really need to repel whatever is throwing at you. That's when the Burgrave can be great. A really great offensive option, or even defensive option in this case. But in most cases, I like Regnets. I like the eco boost that it gives you. So not only are you on 2TC, now you're going to get that extra 600 gold, assuming you're able to secure 2 of those relics. So a really great option. For whatever reason in this game, I guess I've been playing too much Burgrave lately, and I built a monastery, and I actually put the relics in there. I put the relics in the tower here. Don't do that. Obviously put it in your Regnets. But nonetheless, in this situation, I actually did build a second prelate straight away when I was going up, and I put it on the deers here. Because the Archon obviously didn't cover it in this spawn. This is actually a really bad spawn for Archon. I still opted to go for it because I just think it's really good with farms, and especially on 2TC, you're probably going to be transitioning the farms a lot quicker because you do have more bills and you're going to be gathering these natural resources a lot quicker. But yeah, I kept 5 on wood this whole time just for a demonstration, and we went for double stable. We had enough wood because we had these 5 guys on it the whole time. We also went wheelbarrow, which delayed our age up a little bit. But yeah, you can do quicker than this, but this is, I'm just talking through the options that you have available if you are going for that fast castle approach. So one thing to note, if you age up with the Regnets, bringing back your relics, as soon as I see my relics are going to be brought home safe, I just take like half of my bills off gold. If you are going Regnets and you're about to drop in 2, you could even like take off all your villages off gold for a little while, because that gold income is going to be more than enough to support unit production and most of the upgrades that you need as well. And one thing you can see that I'm doing is I'm adding in farms here and there. I'm not just sending all of my villas out here straight away. I'm actually building a few farms at home and then building a mill over here to get these natural resources. And the reason is why I'm doing this is because you don't want to end up with depleted food sources all over the map, and then you have to do like a big switch to wood and then a big switch to farms. It's just going to delay the production. It means you're going to have a really rough transition in at some stage of the game. So start building farms throughout the whole time you've aged up here, and make sure you're prioritizing and putting them around the Archon. And one thing I do a little bit later as well is I make sure I have room for it. So I build a new lumber camp here. The reason I didn't refresh it super soon is because the Archon is actually covering the very edge here. So I don't know the exact numbers on this, but I think it's okay to not refresh it up until here, especially if you got wheelbarrow like I did, because the extra gather speed makes up for the difference. But right about now, after I clean this up, I look at refreshing the lumber camp and deleting this one so I have room for farms here. And typically speaking, you're going to have quite a heavy amount of guys on wood, because not only is your eco going to be crazy, which means that you're going to need more production, but you're also going to need to be transitioning to farms as well. So from here, like, it totally depends on the game you're playing. Try and make the counter unit, if you're aging up to castle age around the same time, I find lancers to always be a good option, just because even if they do go into I don't know, crossbows or whatever it may be, you still have the mobility and you can still punish his eco. So if they do go crossbows, you can punish the fact that they're immobile, and these guys destroy vills, right? 2-shot vills, so great option pretty much in most situations. But yeah, outside of that, I recommend just going for counter units to what he's making. Don't be afraid to make archery ranges as HRE. I know a lot of people are reluctant to because their men-at-arms are really good, but if they're going pure crossbow, there's not much value in going men-at-arm. You can add in land snakes, but if they have a big ball of crossbows and you don't have any much supporting units for land snakes, then they're not going to be that good. So if they are going mass crossbows, add in archers and a bit of crossbows yourself. Do horsemen, mangonels, all that good stuff. But yeah, that's it guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the HRE2TC guide. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace out guys.